My name is Isaac, and this is my CompSci 20 final project. So what I decided to do for my final project was document me building a computer for my friend. This documentation provides the build process, as well as installing drivers and basic programs for the system and the operating system itself. So the first thing we're going to get out here is the motherboard, using the Asus B450 Prime motherboard for AMD chipsets. So here's just a pan shot of the motherboard. There's the socket there. So that's what our processor is going to be going into. And you can also see the RAM sockets as well. And those are the capacitors and the RAM sockets. So the processor that we're going to be using is the Ryzen 5 3600. This is a great, it's somewhat entry-level processor for multiple things. You can use it for gaming, streaming. It's also great for productivity, such as editing this video. So what I need to do first here, or what I decided to do, is just to remove the brackets here, because we're going to have the free spot open to be able to put in our CPU fan for the processor. So that's just me screwing it out. Now I'm ready to put in the processor. So all you have to do is raise that retention bracket here, and it opens up the slot for you. And then what you need to do is just take the processor and line up the pins. You can see the little golden arrow. You can line it up with the socket and press it in like so. And then you just have to lower the retention bracket, and then it's solid. As long as there's a connection between the socket and the pins, it'll be good to go. And that's how it looks right in the socket right there. So now the next thing I'm going to be putting on is the fan. So the CPU fan is needed to cool the processor, because the processor is going to be requiring power, and quite a lot of power, as it's a pretty high-end piece of technology. So that heat sink transfers the heat away from the processor, and that disperses it via the fan. And that's just me kind of lining up the cables. And then all you have to do is screw it into that section that I opened above. So the RAM I'm going to be using is 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory at 3200 speed. And it's just a standard RAM kit. Perfect, and it's running in dual channel, so that's really helpful for your productivity usage, as well as gaming. First thing I gotta do is get rid of that mess before I can move on to the case. It's a fractal design Focus G. It's just an entry-level case. Here's just a quick pan shot of it before I put anything in. It has a mesh front to allow the fans to bring in some cool air. So, and now I got the motherboard in here, and the thing I'll have to do next is put in those standoff screws. You can see the little holes there in the screws where I need to put it in. And yeah, once I get that, then I can move on to the next step. So now that's in. The next thing I need to do is plug in the header cables, so I can use the buttons that are going to be on the front of the computer, such as the power button and USB ports, as well as the audio connectors. And once I got those in, it looks a bit messy, but there's a lot of cables, so you can't do much. But now I'm ready for the next step, which is the hard drive. And it just slides into that retention bracket like so. You just attach those clips onto the hard drive and slide it right in. It's a fairly simple process, and then just plug in the connectors onto the back of it. And this is the SSD. This is going to be the boot drive. I just plug that in like so. Slides in right under the hard drive. Next, I can move on to the power supply. This is 450 watt power supply. It's bronze rated for just so it's a secure power supply that won't go bad. And you just screw it in right in the back there. Now I got to deal with that mess of cables. That'll be a while, but there's a CPU connector. That's going to power the CPU. It's going to plug into the motherboard just like so. And then I have the power supply, or the motherboard connector. It's a fairly large one, but that one can go into the motherboard right there, just right next to the RAM. And finally, we are ready for the graphics card. So the graphics card, we picked it up used for a great price. It's an RX 570. It's perfect for anything you would like to do. It can do gaming, it can do productivity for exporting videos. Just an overall good choice for the money and the budget we had for this video. And that's what it looks like installed into the into the case there. And now, once the power supply is in there for that connection, it's all done. We're ready to turn it on. So I press the button there, and you can see it's alive. It's good to go. It looks like everything's spinning. You can see the fans. I was surprised there's a little white light on them. It looks nice. And you can see all the fans spinning. And once I pan to this here, you can see that it's turned on. And it looked like it booted into the BIOS for us. So that's what we wanted. And the next step that I had to do is to plug in I used a USB boot drive creation tool to install Windows. So, and that just holds a thing of Windows on it, installs it via the USB port. It's a funny looking USB. I've had it since grade 5, but it works. So now I'm just running through the Windows installation steps. But I think the computer looks great. It turned out really well for a pretty solid price. And there's the front there. Overall, great computer. So again, I'm still running through the steps here. Just choosing a region, the keyboard you would like to use, Canadian multilingual standard, just some normal steps, nothing too major. And then it's really a seamless process. Once you get it installed, anyone could do it really, and that's why it's a great way to kind of build it yourself, because it's not too much of a hassle. And now I'm into Windows. There's a lot of things you have to do once you get in, however, such as install graphics drivers. That's what I'm doing, as you can see right here. I'm also downloading the numerous drivers that I need, and that right there, the screen flickering, is the graphics driver detecting the display and setting it to the right resolution. So after that, I can move on to some new drivers, and the computer looks overall pretty great so far. Everything seems to be running well. I need to install other drivers, such as your Ethernet drivers, and audio to drive the audio, just as well as chipset drivers for the processor. So just standard things like that, nothing too major. And now I'm going through here and installing the commonly used programs when you play games on a computer. This is Steam. It's the store that you buy most of your games off of. And it's just a standard setup. You just download it from the website. And then here's Discord. It's an application used to download the things you need. And you can use it to talk, as well as just share files, things like that. But usually use while gaming as a communication service. And here it is. The computer's good to go. Yeah, I can get ready, pack it up, and give it to my friend. I think it went really great overall. Here's just some B-roll of the computer itself. I think it looks really clean, and after running some tests on it, it seems to be pretty stable. Of course, I did have to go into the BIOS and enable a few settings in the BIOS that I forgot to video. But that's just things such as the enabling a slight overclock on the processor, as well as you have to enable the RAM speed, a correct RAM speed for it to be successful, because by default the RAM is running at a slower speed than advertised on the box. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with how this turned out. While I have built computers in the past, this was my first time documenting it, and it really, I don't know, it just helps me kind of relearn it, even though I've done it a few times. And yeah, I really enjoyed learning a bit more and reflecting my learning process in video format. I think it's a great way that it's kind of recorded my hobby, really, and it's in a way it's a bit of a keepsake for me, and even though it's for a project. But yeah, that's my project. I hope you enjoy. This computer will be used for schoolwork, anything really, watching videos, streaming if wanted. You could stream to a website like Twitch or YouTube, and some entry level to moderate gaming. So any game at the highest settings will run well based on the parts we've chosen. And I'm really happy with the build process, and I think it's I think it's a solid reflection of the program listed for the final project assignment. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you.